Hello, I'm LaWanna Bradford, and welcome to another edition of Choose to Challenge. Thank you for joining us each and every week here on E360 TV, and I am so excited because I have a two-part show tonight, one with our Gen Zers, and they're going to give their perspective on what it means to leverage the vote to represent your voice. And the second part, we're going to talk to 5 women here in the U.S. who are going to share their perspectives on what it means to step off the sidelines, to grab a seat at the table. As Shirley Chisholm says, if they don't give you a seat, then you bring up a chair and you take your own seat and you let your voice be heard. We know that this is a very pivotal and crucial time in the United States history. The world is watching what we're going to do because we lead the world in so many initiatives and causes. And the ultimate goal is that we are trying to fight for democracy, ensuring that everyone is able to participate in the process that represents them. So we'll get started in just a minute, and I'll be introducing our amazing panelists. Hello. How's it going?
Hi.
Hello.
Well, welcome to Choose the Challenge. I have Madison Bradford, Xavier Spann, and Mason Bradford. And ladies and gentlemen, introducing the future leaders of our world. And I'm just so excited that you all took time out of your busy schedules. I don't take your time for granted. I know Xavier has been on the trail, working hand in glove with his dad and other members of the DNC to just get the word out about the vote, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Madison and Mason, you're coming here from your college campuses. Mason, you're at Morehouse, Madison, Georgia State University. So you pulled away from your studies, and this, I believe, is both of your first election, right?
This is actually our second election.
Oh, okay.
So the first one we experienced was a special election last November. So it was really small, but it was a really nice experience.
Good. Well, I know, Xavier, you're not yet 18, so you can't vote yet. But this is so important because even though you can't vote, everyone can still participate, right?
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Okay. Well, why don't I'm going to just let you all three just quickly introduce yourselves. Tell me what it is that you're currently doing and why does your voice matter? And we'll start with ladies first. Madison.
Hi, so my name's Madison Bradford. I'm currently a freshman at the University of Georgia studying dietetics. And my voice matters because people like me matter. I think every individual deserves to have a voice and a say, and that's what democracy is.
Thank you. Mason.
Hello, my name is Mason. I'm a freshman at Morehouse College, dual degree engineering. And I feel that it's important to vote because, if you want to see change in the society, then you need to actually work for it. You have to vote. People are saying that, their vote, why would my vote matter? But if 100 people are saying, why would my vote matter? Then it's a big impact. So everyone should vote. And yeah.
Yeah, I like that. What about you, Xavier?
I am Xavier Spann. I'm a senior in high school right now. I go to Canyon View High School, Waddell, Arizona, and I plan to attend Morehouse, following Mason. But I feel like naturally we're the generation that's going to be living in the new, what they're setting for us. Like we're the generation coming into the world, and our voices definitely need to be heard because we're going to live we're going to be the working force. Gen Z's coming up. So we definitely need to have our say in what's going to affect us. So yeah.
I love that. I love what all of you are saying. You know, from you, Xavier, you got to have a say in your future and how you shape. Mason, you're like, look, we can't be silent. We got to be in the game. We have to let our voices be heard. It does matter. And Madison, you're like, yeah, this is representing me, right? And the same things that you've mentioned, those of us that have been around a little bit longer are saying the same things. And the one thing that was amazing to me, like this book, I keep promoting it because it's a great read, Represent the Unfinished Fight for the Vote. And it takes us through 1776 to a year ago. And the interesting thing is the powers that be basically shape the landscape, and they decide who can vote, when they can vote, and they control the vote. And in 2013, legislation changed that gave a lot of power back to the states. So we hear statements about suppressing your vote. And I shared a story with me about me. This is just 4 years ago. I went to vote. Same place I always go to vote. I take my ID. They look and they were like, "Nope, you can't vote." And I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm registered to vote." They said, "Yes, but your voter registration says LaWanna G. Bradford. Your driver's license says LaWanna Gail Bradford. And New Georgia law says they must match to vote." And I'm like, "You're kidding me." And so fortunately, could go home and get my passport that showed, the exact spelling of my name so that I could vote. So that's just an example how Georgia changed its law. But in that same election, this is amazing. I go to the precinct and they said, "But you can't vote here. This isn't your precinct." I'm like, "Well, where am I supposed to go?" They said, "Well, we think you might be voting down the street at the school, elementary school." So I go on down to the elementary school and they're like, "Nope, this isn't where you're supposed to vote." Again, this is 4 years ago. I'm like, "Okay, what's going on?" Fortunately, one gentleman who was there working at the polls had a separate laptop. He's looking and he tells me where I was supposed to vote, which was at a church. And so I went there and I was able to vote. Now imagine how many people wouldn't go through all those stops, right? You hear a no and you tend to go home, right?
Mm.
So I'm just going to ask this one question. Based on what you've seen so far in your experience voting or even talking to your peers, has anyone had any challenges or has it been pretty seamless for them? And I'll start with you, Mason.
For me, I haven't had any bumps, but yeah, nah. It's been pretty smooth.
Pretty smooth. What about you, Madison?
Yeah, in my case, it's also been pretty smooth, especially with being able to early vote since I am not registered in Athens where I'm living at the moment. But being able to request an absentee ballot has been good. But I know a lot of my friends who are also in college are experiencing the same thing with kind of having to figure that out and it just being an extra step. That's not too difficult, but it is, it could always be a roadblock for some.
Yeah, and that's a good point because I'm thinking about how many people in college who didn't register for absentee ballot who are in other states or other counties may miss out on the opportunity of voting. So it's really important to be informed. Xavier, what are you finding out in the as you're out there on the trail?
Well, as you know, I can't vote myself, but I am seeing party suppression. Now, here at my school, I've put out signs, political signs, but they've been taken down by I don't know who, but they've been taken down. They've been ripped up. We have videos of them driving on the signs, and we're going out talking to people, and they'll be like, "You shouldn't be out here. You shouldn't be pushing this, party." So naturally, a lot of people are getting very emotional about it and just trying to suppress other people's beliefs. So that's what I've seen, and I've also noticed that the voting locations they're not like advertised well, or they're not put out there. So it's like you have to look it up and find it yourself. So naturally, I just feel like here in Arizona, there it's not as easy as it would be in Georgia, or like from what I hear from you two.
Yeah, that's, and that isn't that sad? It's like we're saying this is a democracy. Everyone's voice matters. We want you to exercise your vote. But as you just said, Xavier, there's people that are, no, I'm going to pull down your sign. I'm going to try to suppress in some way. And actually those types of actions incite attitudes, anger in other people. And that can be scary, right? Like, what is going to happen on the other side of November 5th? No matter who wins, we hope there will be a peaceful transfer of power, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you, Madison, and then I'll turn to you, Mason. What does it feel like to vote for the first time in your first presidential election?
So it feels pretty exciting, but also really scary. This is like the first time I'm really, having a direct input on who our president is going to be. So that experience is really exciting, but, it adds like some nervousness because you have a horse in this race actually now.
All right. What about you, Mason?
Yeah, I would agree with her. Yeah, and we should always stay informed, but like now we really have to like watch the news, listen to the articles, all that, watch the debates. So yeah, it's important to do all that. And yeah.
Yeah, I agree that it's easy to be influenced by, a third party when you're coming from a seat of ignorance. But when you're in a place where you're informed, that you're getting to, and you're fact checking for yourself and finding out if certain things resonate with you, then I think you can be very confident as you cast your vote, because you're basically saying, this is what I want. This is how I want my life, my future, my community, my nation to be shaped. But if you're not informed, and I'll give you this example. I had someone DM me on Facebook with their, it wasn't even their view. It was a third party view that they pulled from TV. And I asked them, I said, first of all, you and I don't even have conversation on this level. Why are you sending this to me? And they didn't respond. And this was about lumping the one political party in one group, in saying that they were saying all this derogatory comment about another party. And so I had to break it down and say, well, first of all, I'm very aware of these accusations. Second of all, when I went to college, I studied all the different political views that you could have, from communism, fascism, socialism, capitalism. And I said, so my statements are coming from my knowledge, and then I impress my opinion on them. Your statement, on the other hand, is you're taking the vomit and bile that someone else is spewing and you're regurgitating it back into my camp. No go. So I'm finding myself getting a little incensed during this process, that people are just taking liberty. It's like, first of all, you're coming into my house and you're trying to incite me. Why? If that's what you believe, then march on. But again, it's just concerning that I'm seeing a lot of people without original thoughts. And I think that's the one thing, when you allow yourself to go to college, allow yourself to have expansive experience like you, Xavier, with your dad and other people, it allows you to really expand in your free thinking, right?
Yes.
That you're comfortable and confident in standing in your truth and your opinion and defending it. And I encourage you all, as you grow in your life's journey, that you stand firm on whatever your truth is. And it's okay to not get along just to get along, if it's your truth. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The one thing that I want to share, because we all lost Grandpa in September, and I think about, okay, here you all are. Look at how young you are. You're just starting. He was born in 1930. African American man, 1930, in this country, from a town of 250 people. But he believed in the ideal of this country, in the hope of democracy. He was a patriot of patriots. I always tell people Grandpa bled red, white, and blue. I mean, he really loved this country, and he represented it well when he was outside of the country, and he represented and served it well when he was here, all the way up until he passed. And for me, he taught me what it meant to be responsible and accountable to God first, to my family second, to the country third. And I loved what you said, Rico, at Grandpa's service, when you said your dad was around Grandpa and it helped him to become Grandpa, and you recognize Grandpa as a good man. And you said, and he helped your dad to become an even greater man. Mm-hmm. And I hope that the three of you, through Grandpa, through your parents, that you become that much greater, because you're standing on these amazing giant shoulders who blaze the trail for you, right? But it doesn't mean your journey is going to be easy, but you're going to be better equipped because of those that came before you. So I'm going to get off my soapbox for a minute. We're going to take a little break and we'll be right back. I'm going to turn this one over to you, Rico, and then we'll close out with a round robin with everyone. As you said, you're not able to vote yet, but what does it mean to be part of a grassroots effort? I mean, you guys are out there. When you were on fall break, you were out there early in the morning till late at night. When you come home from school, you're out there. You are literally foot soldiers. What does that mean to you? How has that changed you in any way? And how do you hope that your walk will help empower others?
Well, to start off with, it means it definitely means a lot just to be out here and help influence other people, or get the push what I believe is true and help people seek information, find, especially on the presidency and then the senators, and just getting people to get more educated on these guys. So it definitely matters a lot, because you're helping others understand why they might want to vote, why it matters to vote, why they need to vote for maybe not just themselves, but for their family member. And it's just helping influence a lot of other people in a great way. So I think that's that's a good reason, or a reason why it matters a lot. But being out there canvassing, phone banking, putting signs up, it's definitely it's been an effort. We've been out pretty early, almost. I think I've gone out at 5, all the way down to 11 p.m., maybe 12 even. We're out here, and it's definitely a lot. It's an effort for sure, but it's worth it. Educating these people, and then just putting the thought into their head, to make them go seek out information for the presidency, or just information about anything, like propositions. Here in Arizona, we got a lot of propositions on this ballot. So we were putting that information out there, having them research it, having people actually start to think about what might affect them, and actually having them look it up, because you may think it's an easy thing to look up the information, but a lot of these people, they're busy. They got they got lives outside of this. So they're focused on their families. They're focused on getting to work, making that money. But some of them just aren't they're not in tune with voting or the presidency. So in doing all this phone banking, canvassing, and putting these signs up, is helping these people start to think, oh, okay, well, I do need to take a look at that, or I need to go look up some of this stuff that's going to affect me and my wife or my children. So it's a big thing. We got to get out there. We need more people to get out there, but it definitely matters a lot. And I think it's impacting me a lot, because just seeing these people, seeing them start to care about it, and actually taking the time to like do the research and to tell other people, it is definitely made me feel empowered. And then also, I have friends coming to me, like friends are asking me, they're like, what do you think? Because they think I'm educated enough, and I would like to say I am, but they're actually coming to me asking me for this information, in which I tell them, it's like, here's what I know, but you should go look up what what you want to find out, because there's always going to be like misinformation out there. Like there's going to be good information, misinformation, but you have to go look it up on your own, and you got to find it. So actually having these people come to me, I get a little happy, a little excited, but I do have to steer them in the right direction and tell them to, look it up for themselves and get a couple different sources, because there's always going to be stuff that's, like you said, suppressing the vote, or suppressing, people's knowledge and education on the fact.
Yeah, I like that, and I like the fact that you're comfortable in giving your view, but then saying, okay, this is my view based upon what I know. Here's some information. Now you go do your research and make the choice that's best for you. So that's very, very wise. We're about to close. And again, I want to thank all three of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join me. So the last question that I have is, and I want you to speak directly to the audience, whether it's the Gen Zers or maybe even those that are seasoned like me. What do you want to say to them? So those who may be voting for the first time, because believe it or not, one of my friends registered to vote for the very first time, 62 years old. So it's not just the youth. So I want you to speak to them. What lasting words would you like to tell that individual who's going to the polls to vote for the President of the United States, the highest office in the land, for the very first time? I'll start with you, Mason, then Xavier, and then we'll close with Madison.
Well, I just want to leave with this. If you're hesitant about voting, just remember that not everyone can vote. Voting is not given to everyone, and so we should use it. It's a gift. If you want to change, then you need to fight for that. If you see problems, then you should fight for that. So just, if you're hesitant, you shouldn't be. Stay informed and don't listen to what everyone says. Find your own information out and form your own opinion. And yeah.
Thank you. I love that.
In
Xavier.
closing, kind of along the lines what Mason said, I feel like not everybody has a vote, and sometimes this may sound a little mean, but sometimes it's not just about you. So if you don't want to vote, for yourself, or you don't think your vote matters, think about what your vote could do for your family, the people around you. Maybe you saw somebody, on the street that needs help. Think about who's going to create a policy that can help the people, the homeless people, or the or the people, just around you in your school, at work, professional life. So I just feel like, if not for you, vote for somebody else. Help them, because try to care.
I like that. Try to care. Madison.
Yeah, I love what both of them said. And so, just to add on to that, I think, find your own information, but also take it outside of just the voting booth, like Xavier is doing. Like, go out into the streets, talk to your neighbors, be involved in some sort of way. Maybe not helping someone sign up to vote, but, maybe just going and seeing what your community needs so you can actually help maybe get a bill passed. You know, you can actually have an effect on your community if you want to. So, you know, I know we're all opinionated people, so do something with your free will while you have it. So, yeah.
I love it. You all have been amazing. Thank you so much for joining me for Choose the Challenge. Madison Bradford, Mason Bradford, Xavier Spann. I truly appreciate and honor all that you are doing. I wish you well. And to our audience, stay tuned for part 2 of the special edition of Choose the Challenge. And remember, go vote. Bye for now. And I am so honored and privileged to have Jacqueline Lulu Brown. How's it going, Lulu?
It's going great. And thank you so much for having me today. I'm just excited with everything that is being done with Celebrate You. So I am happy to be here.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to jump right in. So why don't you first tell us a little bit about you and what you're doing with your company, Revolution Ascension, and also your ministry.
Okay. So I'm just going to jump right into it with what we're doing right now. So Revolution Ascension is really focused on the needs of women at a deeper spiritual level. We've been through so much. So when you look at women's empowerment, I'm really focused on women's empowerment from having that authentic, but also going and making sure that we are attending to our spiritual life. So those are a lot of the things that we're working on right now that tie right into ministry. Doing a lot with other ministries around women's empowerment and just keeping women encouraged and keeping us strengthened. So even at this particular time, it's important, one, for us to celebrate the things that we've accomplished, but to also celebrate as we're moving forward, because this is a special time. And what I mean by that is I'm often reminded of the scripture in the book of Esther. And when it was time for her to go before the king, and when Mordecai, who's one of the individuals that is having a conversation with her, he says, who would have known that everything that you have prepared for was for such a time as now? So I'm just going to leave that statement right there. That's what this time means to me, is that we as women, through everything that we have come through and everything that we're still going through right now, it's for such a time as right now. And this is a special period. There is, and again, in my belief, that there is an open portal right now for all women of all races, creeds, and color to come together and to actually move forward. There are some things within our culture that we will do independent to our culture. But then there is also coming together and just moving forward, because I really believe that this is a little different than, let's say, where our moms came from and future generations, prior generations. But as we move forward with future generations, I believe that this is a very, very special time for us as women to move forward together.
So tell me, when you hear that, choose to challenge, what does that mean to you? How does it resonate with you?
It resonates with me is to rise up, to not be silent, to challenge the status quo. Rise up and challenge what has been done for years and years that doesn't serve us moving forward. Some things just don't serve us the way they did before. So I think we need to challenge the status quo, rise up and not be afraid to come forward with our voice. That's the other piece of it, is challenge with our voice. We have powerful voices. We are powerful beings as women, but our voice can also be very, very powerful. And that choose to challenge, I can say that I choose to challenge what has been. I choose to challenge why can't we do it differently? I choose to challenge, well, why do we think that the way it was done previously is right? Why not change it? And I think that's important with the millennial women that are coming along um, behind us.
And then Native Americans, when you're looking at all where discriminatory voting practices was deemed illegal, this wasn't until the 80s.
Mhm.
So, but we know that when we exercise our right to vote, it's basically an extension of our voice. So would you like to share a little bit about that and the power of our voice as women?
LaWanna, thank you. The power of our voice is very strong in our voting. And I will be very transparent. There was time in my life where I was very discouraged and I just felt, you know what? Why bother? Why bother to vote? There was one election in particular, and I was just really discouraged that year. And while I knew I had to vote, I really didn't have the level of confidence in the individual that I was voting for. And I can remember it was pouring down rain that day. And I said to myself, I said, you know what? This rain, I will be with an umbrella. I would have been drenched. And so I said, if it doesn't slow down raining, I'm just not going to go in and vote. And I'm being very transparent because that people are probably like, oh my God, she was really not going to vote. But I felt this burden at that particular time. And everything that you have been talking about, LaWanna, that's what made me get out of the car. It made me say, no matter what is going on in the world at a given time, my voice and my vote still matters. So guess what? The rain continued to come down hard, and I went in to vote and I got soaked. And even though the candidate that I would have really wanted to vote for did not make it in the primary. But I didn't let that stop me. I didn't let the discouragement and some of the things that were going on. I actually just went in and I was like, you know what? I'm still going to cast my vote. I'm still going to raise my voice. So it's very important that we continue to raise our voices in the vote because we can march, we can protest. Those are our rights. We can do that. We can write to our political leaders, but your power to make change, especially LaWanna in our local elections. Our local elections are really important. So we can have our voice heard in our local elections. So that's my take on voting is that you may not always be in a place where you're really happy and rock solid, convinced that this is the right person. But you have to kind of look at, well, there's a cliche, the less of the evils. You just kind of got to go through that process, but you have to vote. So I'm glad that I actually got out the car, but I will be transparent to say that there was a time when I was very discouraged. And I know how important it is for us to get past that, step over it, get soaking wet in the rain, and then go in and let your voice be heard through your vote.
So, Alexa, why don't we just get right into it and tell our listening audience a little bit about you, what's going on in your world, what's new and exciting happening for Alexa.
Well, my name is Alexa Oliva, and yes, you could say, "Hey, Alexa, turn on the lights." I listen sometimes. Anyway, so my background is in marketing and advertising. I went to University of Miami, which I'm totally proud of because I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. Also, the first American born. And so that was exciting. So it was a lot of firsts for my parents, who immigrated from Colombia when they were in their early 20s to New York, of all things, in the late 60s. So that was very interesting for them. And so we moved to Miami in 1973. So technically I'm a Miamian, you know, still live down here in South Florida, sunny South Florida. It's always sunny. It's always hot. It's always humid. And, in 1987, I met a very interesting individual who changed my life forever and told me that he wanted to change the lives of 100 million people in a positive way. And I was like 20 years old the day he said that. And I was like, wow, this guy's crazy. So I married him. Let me tell you, I've been in business for almost 30 years now, right? And when I first started almost 30 years ago, my husband and I started an agency. And so for a very long time, I went by the name Alexa Laforie. Why? Because my maiden name, my brother used to also work with us when we started our business. And so I didn't want to use his name. I couldn't use my husband's name. So I used my mother's maiden name. Now, the reason for that is because a lot of times we had clients that would say, oh, Bert, because your little wife over here. And I'd be like, what do you mean your little wife? What are you talking about? I got a degree. I got experience. I have talent. And why are you telling me the wife? I'm here because I want to be and because I deserve to be here, not because I'm the wife. So that's one of the reasons that I used it. And you know, men made you feel horrible. Another thing that always influenced me a lot and I hated so much was when I would go to networkers to build my business and men would shake your hand and almost break your wrists. They have these death grips or they shake it really hard. And I was always like, what is your problem? You don't need to prove your manliness to me. I'm a woman. Treat me like a woman. I'm okay. It's my character, not my physical, strength that we're here to talk about, you know, and to introduce each other. So those were just some of my pet peeves, you know, being a woman in business. I didn't want to be it didn't matter that I was a woman. It doesn't matter. That didn't make a difference that I was someone's mom, someone's sister. And what mattered was that I was there to do business, legit business, good business, honest business. And that's why I wanted to be there.
Pandemic. And when we think about our right to vote, one of the things that I've noticed is history paints what the writers wanted us to see, which was women at the front. But they overlooked the Hispanic women, the African American women, the Asian American women, and the Native American women who were girding up the effort. It was not just the white women that did all of this. But when the women won the right to vote in 1920, look how many years before our cultures benefited from it, to the fact that even Native Americans, and this actually shocked me, Alexa, it was in the 1980s where anti-discrimination voting practices were written off the books for Native Americans, in the 80s. So knowing that and knowing how important it is for us as women to express our voice, what do you have to say about that?
You know, having the right to vote is such an intensive and beautiful thing. And it is a lot of people call it a privilege, but I don't want to say that it's a privilege. It should be the law of the land, you know? But unfortunately, there's lots of countries in our world that still don't allow women to vote. I mean, Saudi Arabia just let women vote only in 2015, which is not that long ago, you know? And it's like I said before, how can we not have a voice when we bring life into this world? And I don't see in my brain and the way I was brought up, I can't comprehend the fact that someone would think that our voices don't matter, that our intentions don't matter, that our lives don't matter, that our opinions don't matter. And, you know, I think that, I know it's crazy. I want world peace. I want equality for everyone. I know these are very crazy things, but I really believe in that. And that's one of, you know, fairness, living a life that's just, that we get to make an opinion on. When we bring life into this world, why shouldn't we have that opinion? Why should we let other people guide us? Why should I make decisions for what I want or don't want in my life? I need to choose what I want in my life.
Tamara L. Hunter. Tamara, how's it going?
I'm so excited to be here with you, as always. Thank you for being here and just love what we're going to be talking about.
Can you tell us a little bit about you, what you're doing, and what's new in your world?
Well, thank you so much. I actually am a survivor of cancer. I survived. There's a story to it. I ended up surviving with a buddy, and now 6 years later, 6+ years later, we have an international movement of buddies that are helping through healing through connections, because we believe that when you have someone there for you, when you connect with yourself, with someone else, a buddy, and with community, that you can actually heal through that. And we have a lot of fun. We share that we have an abundance of humor, hope, heart hugs, and a whole lot of love.
But why don't you tell me, what is it about us today that's so important in celebrating each other as women? Why is the time now, it appears, around the world for this rallying cry around women?
I'll tell you this, that I believe that this last year has opened many eyes. And if they haven't been opened yet, I believe that they will be at some point. It might be that this will be history to someone in the future that will say, looking back on that, now I get it. However, we are in that point right now where we are the history makers. I do believe that this last year has prepared us to possibly, and given us a gift to go inward, to then take it outward.
21.
Meaning that
when you think about women's right to vote here in the U.S. from 1920, what does that mean to you? Not so much from a political landscape, but that it's actually an extension of our voice, a way that we can be heard, a way that we can shape the lives that we live.
Because I was shaped by it, personally touched by it. In my family, my great-grandmother was a suffragette. She was also a school teacher and a graduate, which was very uncommon in that period of time, an educated woman, yet a woman that was not about herself too, and it was about serving others. And it was something that I was raised with, because anything and all things are possible. And the political is that's a whole nother thing. But when you think of what a suffragette movement was, these women were doing it because they wanted to be seen, and they wanted to make a difference in their homes and in the workplace and in community. And it wasn't for political gain. It was for their children, for their lives, for the food that was on their table, to be able to make a difference. When you weren't seen and you didn't have the right to say, okay, this isn't working for me, we can make a difference. And I can stand as an equal to say, my thought is this. How about let's collaborate? Let's make a difference. My voice can be heard because I have been recognized now because my voice can be heard. And to be raised with that as a legacy, I'm proud of it.
So excited to have this amazing woman here who is about to tell us all the wonderful things that she's doing in life, how she's making an impression and impact around the world. Welcome, Simone. How's it going?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Hello, 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 everyone. It's your girl, C. Simone Rivers, affectionately known as the Yum Yum Ambassador. Why? Because I influence the flavor of every room I enter. And I believe there's a scripture, oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. I live my life that way. I believe life is supposed to be good, regardless of all the things that are happening in it. I believe there's an undercurrent of joy that we have access to. And every time I show up somewhere, I talk in that vein. So that's where that came from.
So one of the things that you do, I mean, you're an author, you're a speaker. tell us what else you do to make an impact in the lives around you.
Well, I found it Triggering Light. It's a personal development consultancy with a social mission to support women who have been abused, women and children, but specifically women who have been abused, because I come from that vein. And what I learned in the process of going from where I was to where I am is there were very few people that were really talking about what they went through. They showed their pretty pictures on social media after the fact, but they never talked about the trauma, the PTSD, the sleepless nights, the, oh, what am I going to do? The homelessness, all of those things I experienced. And I use my life to impact the lives of other people in that business. We can't live in the space of victimhood. And with the whole choose to challenge mantra that I keep hearing it over and over again, I ask myself, what am I challenging? And what I am encouraging people to challenge is the idea that they are not leaders. This is not my cross to bear. Leadership is influence. That's all it is. And we all have influence, whether it's in our small little bubble or in a larger space, we all have influence. And if you can influence the space that you're in, that's going to have a ripple effect on the rest of the world.
How do we create a continuum in this conversation where we are elevating the consciousness of us as women, not only celebrating ourselves historically, but what we're doing now, preparing the future generation to stand on our shoulders?
You know, I'm not sure when Women's History Month became a thing. I don't know that date, but just like Black History Month and Asian Pacific History Month, or I appreciate the banner that's flying or that's flown, but if nothing gets done after we stop talking, it really has no purpose to me. So I am a woman, and there's a statement I heard recently about making history, not forgetting history, but making history. The world is aching for a new kind of leadership, one that is not, that is inclusive, that is compassionate, and is non-judgmental. You can be whoever you choose to be in this world, as long as you don't hurt me or hurt somebody that I love. And you speak about my son. I have two sons, by the way. There's just one at home, so I'm a mother of two. Hey, Joshua, I haven't forgotten you. Going back to what I said before, because the world is aching for a new kind of leadership, I believe that divine femininity is on the rise. I can't explain it in layman's terms. It's more of a spiritual feeling that I have, that women are moving from behind to on top. And it's important that when we get there, because we are going to get there, that we don't become the oppressors that we experienced. Really, really important, because we are receivers. That's how we were made, and we are lovers. We are givers. I don't know if you've heard me say this before, but I believe that women are like quilting squares. Individually, we can't cover a whole lot. But if you've ever seen someone put a quilt together, they use these small little squares, and once they're all put together, it's beautiful. It's a tapestry for your bedroom. It's a covering for your family. It's a covering for your community. And that's how I see us. We have to come together first. But before we can even get to each other, we have to heal ourselves, as I said before, get our heads in order, get our hearts in order, and sharpen whatever that tool is that we've been given.
And tell our listening audience a little bit about who is Deborah, and what things are you doing, and how are you making a difference?
Well, thanks, LaWanna. I had spent 42 years in the financial services industry. And of course, that was pretty old white male industry. And I came straight out of college, literally worked in the corporate world for a half a day, gave my notice, and then went to be an entrepreneur. So all my adult life, I have worked as an entrepreneur in the financial services business. And we're breaking through all the norms. So the choice to challenge was, I was so enthralled with helping people, and the aspect of money was so intriguing to me. And then in particular, life insurance, which I really didn't even understand until people explained it. And I thought, holy camoly, this can keep businesses in place and families intact. And so I, led the agency in sales the first year, and as a 21-year-old. And so I went to national conferences, and I was the only woman in a double ballroom, right? So you've been there as a Black woman. I was there as a young whippersnapper. I carried a towel to wipe the wet behind my ears, and I bought a gray anthracite gray BMW because I needed to look like 40, right? And I had one little gray hair, and I pulled it right out to the front, and it was completely obvious. So, we do these things, right? Now, of course, I have now just sold my business last September, and I did practice as a fiduciary, bringing together people's goals and objectives on a fee-only basis, and then we manage their money as well. And with my master's in retirement planning, I'm choosing to challenge the fact that women have been so poorly socialized around money that I wanted to bridge some of those gaps, and I believe we did so. And I actually really take the responsibility of living in the United States of America. I own my white privilege. I own my middle class privilege, upper middle class privilege, and we are being watched. We must be the leaders, because the rest of the world is counting on us. And the rest of the women need role models to whom they can look. And so it's incumbent upon us to, one, do our part that will obviously benefit us, and yet ultimately be the beacon and shine the light for masses behind us. And we don't even know who they are. We just know. It's really amazing to me that we are dealing with systems, LaWanna, that are permeating our very lives. And let's talk about the women's right to vote. 12 women, right, many of whom suffered in prison, went on hunger strikes, were beaten, abused, tortured to get the right to vote 100 years ago. August 18th. August 18th. A good number of those women were Black women. And for them to stand out and say something when they were otherwise silenced because of their race, first of all, is quite remarkable. So we've got Sojourner Truth, right? We've got Elizabeth Cady Stanton. We've got, I didn't know them all by heart. So Lucretia Mont, Amelia Bloomer, Susan B. Anthony, Frances Allen Watkins, Mary LaCode Bethune. Excuse me.
Bethune.
Last women, Bethune, of course, were Black women. Lucy Stone, Daisy Elizabeth Adams, Alice Paul, Ida Wells, a Black woman, and Mary Clarell Terry. It's bad when you can't read your own writing. These 12 women were completely out there knowing that we needed a voice, first of all, and we need a bigger voice. And so fast forward to today, when we have a record number of people voting in the latest election, I celebrate that. And ultimately, the system has a lot of built-in inequalities that will only be changed with system-like cures and system battles. And you can only battle the system from within the system. So we need to be there and vote with our feet at the ballot or pre-mail-in absentee in order to elect people that are looking out for the humanity and the equal treatment of people for whom that treatment has not been equal. And once we do that, they may be still little tiny voices comparatively, and yet they are voices and they will multiply. And we've already seen vestiges of it already. So the fact is, to thrive in our right to vote, yes, ma'am, we must vote every single election. Our lives depend upon it. And I'm not kidding. I'm
They
not
do.
kidding.
They do. I love
now-
that. So
there's a system right there, LaWanna, right? There's a system. And so I always like to I have 1 foot in the system and 1 foot in my personal power circle. Okay. So the system demands, or gave us the right to vote as women. It's our personal responsibility to vote. Now moves a foot to reduce our abilities to vote. And so it becomes a systematic thing again. And so now we have to fight back the systems, and we have to call our representatives and say how we feel. And so this vacillation between the personal and the systemic is real, and it has to play out.